Hello everyone and welcome back to Brown Coat Reviews. I'm your host Laura. So today we're going to talk about cool collectibles, and I also have a question for you all of what on earth I should do. So let me start with this lovely book. Now, I've of course talked to you about a lot of my comic book favorites. One of my all-time favorite movies as a kid, gosh, I still love it as an adult, is The Princess Bride. Now, when I was growing up, I was the youngest in the entire family. So we're talking cousins, you name it. And I wasn't just like 2 years younger. I was at least 4 years, if not 6, 7, 8 years younger than everyone else. So there were many times where what on earth can we watch with Laura in the room was a discussion. And I remember the one that we could always compromise on was The Princess Bride. Now, if you haven't watched The Princess Bride, go watch it. It is an amazing movie. It has fencing, fighting, miracles, escapes, true love. Oh, it has it all. So I remember one of the first times that I decided I was going to get a signature from an actor was an actor from The Princess Bride. It was Chris Sarandon. So most of you will probably know Chris Sarandon from Nightmare Before Christmas. He did the voice of Jack Skellington, but Chris Sarandon also played Prince Humperdinck in the movie. So I searched high and low for the right thing because I was like, well, do I want to get everyone's signature from the movie, on a poster? Do I want a picture? How do I want to keep something like that? And I wanted something that had more value than what I could fit on a wall. And don't get me wrong, I love artwork, but as many of you know, you move into a new space and you always end up with more artwork than you do have wall space. And I wanted to be able to appreciate this for generations to come. So what I decided on was an actual copy of The Princess Bride. So this is the illustrated copy. It's gorgeous. So this book, it has a map of Florin on the inside. And yes, I will zoom in. And then of course we have Princess Bride. I mean, just look at that print. It's gorgeous. And the whole book has different little sketches throughout it. It's a gorgeous copy of the book. So what I decided I was going to do was slowly but surely is get the signatures of the cast members in my book. And I was like, as a fan of The Princess Bride, it's going to be amazing. The first conundrum that I had with Chris Sarandon was, you can get the signatures and you can ask them to maybe put the character's name underneath, but most of the actors, when they do signatures, especially for something personalized like this, they'll ask you, do you want me to put your name, or do you want me to put a special message on there? And I was like, this is for the people like me who know and love The Princess Bride. So I was like, let me think of a couple movie quotes. I was like, oh, can you imagine getting, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die, and then get the signature? Oh my gosh, it would be so... Mandy Patinkin, I'm coming. It's going to happen someday when you're actually still going to Comic-Cons. It'll happen. So I was like, I could get some of these absolutely amazing quotes and I could fill my book. And it would be a memory not just of kind of the journey it took for me to get these signatures, but then it would also be something that other people would appreciate, not just me. So Chris Sarandon was actually really hard to pick a quote for Prince Humperdinck. If you don't know the movie this well, I'm going to apologize now because I do. So Humperdinck has some amazing quotes, but all of them are really long. Like, I would not say such things if I were you. Who on earth wants to write that underneath their signature? I was like, okay, could do that one. There's my people a month from now. I'm like, that doesn't work. I was like, well, what if I put I'm swamped? I'm like, but the quote I'm swamped doesn't make sense unless you have the speech he gives right beforehand. So I struggled, and even like as I was in line to get Chris Sarandon to sign the book, I finally picked one quote. And I know most of you are going to ask, well, what did you pick after this great buildup? I picked "To the Death." Now, most of you are like, well, wait a second. The whole point of that speech and that scene is when Prince Humperdinck says, well, "To the death." And Carrie Ellis, or of course our man in black, responds, "To the pain." It's like, I'm not familiar with that phrase. And then you get this amazing speech about, what the pain means. And it's this battle of wits that is wonderful, great take. But as soon as you hear, as a Princess Bride fan, you hear "To the death," your first response is "To the pain." So I was like, that works. That immediately makes me think of The Princess Bride. And it's short and sweet, and Chris Sarandon will not give me a glare when I ask him to sign this. So I do have the signature over here. And the cool thing is, because this is a map of Florin, I can pick where the characters or where the actors sign. So of course, in the castle, I have Chris Sarandon sign, and it says "To the death," and underneath he wrote Humperdinck and put an exclamation point. Seriously cool. It was a great chance to meet him. He did a Q&A, and that was awesome. So super excited. Well, COVID happens, and there are no Comic-Cons. But then they started doing virtual Comic-Cons, and they offered virtual signatures. And I was very hesitant because I'm like, I really wanted to meet most of these people. But at the same time, I'm like, well, is it worth it? Because Comic-Cons were canceled in 2020. Comic-Cons will be canceled unless they're in December of 2021. They're already being canceled. And then there's the question of, you get some of these older actors, and what are the chances that they're actually going to come to a Comic-Con in the next couple of years? I'm like, ooh. So they had online Wallace Shawn. Now, Wallace Shawn, he was the voice in Toy Story, he's been in Mrs. Maisel, he's been in so many different other stories, but of course in The Princess Bride, he is Vicini. And he is that famous character that he says over and over again, "Inconceivable!" There was no question in my mind when it was like, well, what quote do I want him to put in the book? Inconceivable was it. There were 7 or 8 others that were very good, but that's the one. So, here's my conundrum. When you send this off, like, I quadrupled, like, bubble taped, wrapped this thing up. I was like, please take good care of my baby. Please. Send off my book. And I put the instruction for, like, please sign your name underneath. Please put the word "Inconceivable." I put it on the written instruction, the official form. And then I included, because I am apparently really OCD, I put it on the Post-it note, and then I put it on a separate sheet of paper by the book. And yes, I had, just like for the signature series for CGC comic books, I had like Post-it notes. So I had 4 Post-it notes telling him where I wanted him to sign, over here by the picnic. And I had it, like, I even put it bigger than necessary in case he had a really, really big signature. And I'm like, I don't want to limit you, but I also want to make sure that you know, like, this area over here, please, 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 please. So here's the problem. I got my book back. And this, by the way, this was my Christmas gift to myself. I bought 2 Christmas gifts for myself. This was one of them. It was a huge deal. And I got it today. So you are seeing this the same day I am reacting to this. And here's the problem. So I opened it up, and I even got like the extra JSA certification on the signature, only because I couldn't actually meet Wallace Shawn to be able to say, yes, that is his signature. And you may have noticed when I opened this book, see, because you've got a signature, you've got a line, "To the death," and he put Humperdinck. Perfectly fine. But many of you have noticed, even from this far away little shot, there's a signature up here. And then there's this really, really long message. And I don't know about you, but most of us know that the word inconceivable, even when you write it in big font, is like that big. And it does not involve multiple lines. You want to know what it says? Yeah. This is what it says. My friend, that is one word I never say. ... Are you freaking kidding me? So I'm going to fill this entire book, especially this map, with the cast members' signatures and quotes from the movie, and I'm stuck with that. That's not a quote from the movie. That's not what I asked for. If he would have just signed his name, I could have worked with that. Because heck, I could have written Inconceivable underneath. What am I supposed to do with that? I mean, my husband was very sweet and he knew I was upset. And I'm like, I'm not going back and getting Chris Sarandon's signature. I've already paid for it. I don't want to start this book all over again. My husband was like, well, maybe he's just trying to be funny. Like, that's not funny. Not when I pay you. Really, like, this was more than what I pay at Comic-Cons for this signature. Chris Sarandon was doing signatures as well. And I can tell you right now, this price I paid at Comic-Con for his signature versus what they were charging online, it was a $30 difference. I'm like, why? It's COVID. I'm sending the book to you. But the prices jumped in 2020. I don't know if they're trying to support the actors. Doesn't matter. Or maybe they're trying to make back money that they've all lost because all the Comic-Cons are closed. Doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that signature was not cheap. And there was a very specific reason I chose that signature. And now I have that. So what would you do? Have you ever had this problem before? Because like I said, if I was standing face to face, I would have said, hey, listen, if you don't want to type Inconceivable, I'll give you another movie quote. I've got 3 at the top of my head I can tell you to do. No problem. Just replace it. Heck, if they would have sent me an email, I would have responded within 10 minutes and said, will he do this quote instead? Yeah, it would have been more than one word, but I would have made it happen. And I guess this is what happens when you're no longer across the table from someone. Only thing that I'm like, really? Obviously, Mandy Patinkin, whenever I approach him, he already knows the quote that everyone's going to be asking for. And even if he doesn't want to do the full quote, at some point, everyone's going to be asking him to write Prepare to Die. Carrie Ells knows that we're all going to ask him to write As You Wish. It's like asking Leonard Nimoy, when he was still alive, to sign anything other than Live Long and Prosper. Sure, he was in other movies and he was in other storylines. He was a very good actor, but that's what he was known for. So this is kind of a given of when you portray a character that is beloved and has a famous quote like this, it just happens. We all want to hear that quote. We want to put it on our voicemails. We want to have it in signature form. We want that character because we loved that character so much. And I understand. Actors get sick of it. I'm trying to be understanding. I get it. But at the same time, if that's the one thing you refuse to do me a favor and put it on your website. And just put it in black and white. You know, I will sign anything, put my name, no problem, but I will not sign or add the word inconceivable. Or just say, I won't do special requests. I will sign, period. Fine. If I would have known, again, I can work with that. Sign it, get my silly little, certification. It's Wells, Sean. I'll write in Inconceivable underneath. Problem solved. But now I'm looking at this book going, okay, there is no real fix. I can reach out to the company and I can complain and I can say, what the heck is this? This is not what I paid for. It's not what I asked for. But he did technically sign the book. So it's not fair for them to issue a full refund and I to make my demands. But then the other half of me is like, well, the whole purpose of this book is now altered. And I'm lucky I only have one other signature in here. But let's say I had 5. You have 5 other signatures and all 5 other actors were willing to go with your request because you pay a pretty penny for these signatures. So you have all these other signatures and you get one actor that wants to be funny. I'm like, it's not funny to me, dude. I'm sorry. So basically, I will get over this. I will figure something out. But I was mostly wondering from you guys, have you had a problem like this? Have you ever met someone at Comic-Con or at some other signing event and they kind of let you down? And yes, I know it's very unfair that we get an assumption that we know them. And I know that there are going to be times where the actors are going to let us down. The writers, the artists, not everyone's nice. But at the same time, I'm like, was it that big of a request? And if it was a big deal, then just sign the name. And put on one of the 4 post-it notes I had around here, I'm sorry I don't sign that. I would have respected it. So how would you handle this? Would you complain? Or would you just add the word inconceivable underneath, call it a year? I mean, technically, I could order a second copy of the book. No. Like, I can't even, like, overlay this and cut out a little section for his signature. It just, I don't know. Basically, I'm stuck with this or I'm starting all over. So, The Princess Bride is still my favorite movie. There are so many others that I really enjoy, but this is my childhood right there. My best friends and I, we would get together and we would have a movie night and we would sit there and quote the movie and laugh endlessly at The Princess Bride. So this movie means so much to me. The story means so much to me. And I still love it. So this hasn't taken anything away from it. It was just disappointing. But that's also the other side of the coin, is there will be times where we are elated and we meet some of these amazing people. And sometimes you meet them and you're like, wow, I used to look up to that person. It's happened to us all. But then we see that they're just human. So I guess my book is a little bit more human now. Which, maybe that's not a bad thing. So I promise I won't always have, Debbie Downer videos. I had to share this with you because I couldn't believe it. Or maybe I could believe it, I just didn't want to believe it. But I do have other collectibles. And I have one other Christmas gift that's arriving eventually. I think that'll probably be March or April. And that one's coming from CGC. So that one should be a little bit more on the nose, I should say. But as you know, I am your host, Laura, here with Brown Coat Reviews. Slightly disappointed, but I know I won't stay that way forever. So please, join the comments. Tell me how you would handle this situation. Tell me what you've experienced, or if this is something that you've run into a lot, especially when it comes to like a customized, a special request like this. And please tune in next time, because we won't just be discussing The Princess Bride. We're going to be talking about all kinds of different collectibles. This just happened to be the one that showed up today. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, definitely comment below, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day.